Welcome to 18th Century Cooking. We'll be doing an episode today that uses beets, but it's not exactly probably what you're thinking. We're going to be making pink pancakes. Thanks for joining us today. Now this recipe is from Hannah Glass's The Art of Cookery. It isn't in the early edition that we published. This one's actually from the 1803 edition, but it's a great recipe and it's perfect time of year for it, so we're gonna do it. This one's really easy to get started. We just need one of these beets, and it's really simple here. We're just gonna cut off the very top and the very bottom, and we're just gonna boil this guy for about 45 minutes. I think our beet has boiled long enough. We need to get the skin off of it. If it's cooked long enough, the skin will probably just pop right off. We'll just chop these up into a bit smaller pieces, and then they can go into our large bowl. Beat these up into a fine texture. Okay, so I think I got most of it. This is really hard to do, to get this beet down into basically a beet puree. Doing it with the classic mortar and pestle, which is what calls for in the recipe, can take a long time. It's very laborious. You in your modern kitchen will likely use something like a mixer or a blender maybe to get this into its real fine consistency. But once we're there, it's time to start adding in our regular ingredients. So she calls for 4 egg yolks whisked up. So I've got 4 egg yolks here. 3 spoonfuls of cream, and I'm not sure exactly where this spoonful is. So, you know, I'm just gonna kind of guess. A glass of brandy, and this isn't a big glass, this is one of these little glasses. Also calls for ground nutmeg, probably 1/4 of a nutmeg. Now she calls for just 2 spoonfuls of flour. There's not a lot of flour here. So we're gonna add 2 spoonfuls of flour, and I will add flour to this as I feel like we've gotten to the consistency. Now, we've got all these things in our bowl. Now the directions are to whip this for a half hour. So you see me back in a half hour. So as you get started whisking this, it's time to taste it. She says sweeten to taste. And I suppose that, you know, without any sugar here, it doesn't have any sweetness. They don't have syrup to pour on these pancakes, so we do want them a little sweet. We don't want to go nuts with that, so you want to add a little bit of sugar as you're whisking this together. Okay. We've whisked this for something like a half hour and kind of beat in a lot of air, and that's the point. That's the leavening for these pancakes. It's a real typical leavening for the late 18th century, early 19th century. We're not using anything like baking powder or baking soda. We're whipping air into those eggs, into our mixture. That's what's going to leaven this. This batter is ready to go. We need to get it on the fire and start cooking these up in a pan. Now, the real thing here is we want to have pink pancakes, not brown pancakes. We need to lightly butter this pan. So I've got a ball of butter inside of a linen rag here so that we can lightly butter this pan to cook it in. And now let's, we don't want it to be too hot. We've got our batter. We don't want it to sizzle because we'll have a brown pancake for sure. And we'll just get 3 going here. We're not going to make them too big because we want these to be easy to turn over. There we go. There are our beautiful pink pancakes. She talks about having these on the table, maybe as a side piece. Not, of course, is the main thing, but this is to go into a large dinner where you have lots of fancy dishes. And we have pink pancakes here. They've got their green garnish. This is all about the color. That's what these beets aren't here for the flavor. They're here for the color. They look great, but let's find out what they taste like. A lot of pancake there. Really, really interesting, especially with the sweetmeat garnish. We would be used, of course, to eating our pancake with a syrup or something else. This doesn't have anything like that, but the garnish here, or the sweetmeat, sets off these pancakes perfectly. And the really nice thing is, at least for me, is that the beets aren't a strong flavor component. They're down there, they're buried, that beet flavor. The beets are here to turn it pink, but they have a wonderful, great pancake flavor. These are high-end pancakes with sugar in them, and they've got brandy in it and nutmeg in it. So this is a fancy dish meant for a fancy dinner party. They look great. They taste great. This would make a wonderful addition. Of course, this time of year, they kind of fit well too. So this one turns out really, really good. And it's one of those kind of, recipes that's hidden inside of Hannah Glass's cookbook. So it's a fun one that as you're digging through that cookbook, you find little nuggets like this that we don't have in our modern repertoire. Great flavors. What a wonderful dish. What a fun experiment. If you didn't see the episode where we made the candied lime peel, which really sets this off perfectly, make sure to go back and watch last week's episode where we make the candied lime peel. Such a wonderful experiment. Such a wonderful dish. Tastes great and has a really, really interesting look. I want to thank you for coming along on this experiment as we savor the flavors and the aromas of the 18th century.